Okay, hi everybody. Rabbi Shmuley podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, I said to my daughter Chana that what I really wanted to talk about tonight, since it's Sfiras HaOmer, it's the 49 days in between Passover and Shavuot, the festival of weeks. And the custom is to study the Jewish tractate of Sota, the unfaithful wife, or the woman who's accused of unfaithfulness. And the reason is that there's 49 pages in that tractate of the Talmud. So we're alive, right? Yeah. So I said to Chana, the Torah says that a man is supposed to be jealous of his wife, that it's actually like a mitzvah to be jealous of your wife. And I said to Chana, that's a really interesting subject for us to discuss, given that people are studying Sota now.
What are the words?
Well, it's the Isha Kisiste. Well, you know that the Torah talks about a husband who suspects that his wife has been unfaithful, and she has to go through the whole test of water and everything. But the Torah says, the Talmud, in explaining what the Torah says that a man should be jealous of his wife. In other words, there's like virtue and jealousy. And the truth is that you see this virtue and jealousy even from what God says in the Torah over and over again, because
He's a jealous God.
He's a jealous God. Yeah, a little bit closer. Yeah, God is a jealous God. And I know that today we demonize jealousy and we say that jealousy has no positive value, that the jealous man or the jealous woman is seen as insecure, and they should be more, content with themselves and not suspect any kind of flirtation or unfaithfulness. And yet I actually believe that jealousy is kind of a measure of connectedness. When a husband's jealous of his wife, and we're not talking about overdoing it, like anything it can be overdone, but when a husband's jealous of his wife, it means that he what's wrong with possessiveness? What's wrong with feeling, well, this is my wife, and there are certain intimacies that should be, and vice versa. A woman can show jealousy to her husband, not, again, overdoing it, but why is possessiveness, like, this is my wife, this is my husband, why is that a bad thing?
When is overdoing it? Where's the line?
Well, if you tell your wife she can't even speak to another guy, that's overdoing it. If you tell her that if you're like some crazy person who lives in the Middle Ages and says, oh, she can't work outside the home, she should be inside the kitchen because I don't want her interacting with other men.
What about checking her phone all the time? Or checking your husband's phone?
That's a good question. If there's reason to suspect that there is something in the relationship that that if you have reason to suspect that there's something going on, I wouldn't encourage people to start checking each other's phones without telling one another. That's ridiculous. I would definitely encourage a very serious conversation where you have to find out, like, why is there this lack of trust?
Right. Well, do you think that it's different for men and women?
Well, first tell me.
Jealousy is healthier for men to feel a little bit like their wife or whoever they're with is a little bit out of their reach, and that other people are interested in them and see them in that way.
Well, you should first react to what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying.
You agree with me? Because you're a millennial.
Like jealousy is good?
Well, yeah, the jealousy has beneficial.
Yeah, I think it has its benefits for sure.
So you think that it's okay for a husband to be jealous of his wife?
So you want me to?
I want you to express your opinion.
Yeah, but I agree with you a little bit. I think that it can start looking a little crazy, but for the most part, yeah. I think it has benefits.
Okay, what is jealousy? Jealousy is a desire to hold on to something that legitimately belongs to you. I always distinguish between jealousy and envy. Jealousy is where I legitimately want to take possession of that which is rightfully mine, and envy is where I seek to illegitimately possess that which is not mine. Like where you're constantly envious of what other people's possessions. But jealousy, to want my wife, my kids to show a certain connectedness and intimacy with me that they don't show to strangers, is that a bad thing?
No, I think jealousy is directly related to mystery, which I know is important in a relationship, because I don't think there can be jealousy if there's like complete transparency. Like there has to be some element of like, what is she doing? What is he doing? What's going on with that person? What is she not telling me for there to be jealousy, right? Is that true? I don't know.
No. Okay. Yeah. You mean if you feel that your partner is so completely in your possession that you no longer have to earn them, that can lead to boredom.
Yeah.
So you need to feel that they are desirable to the opposite sex.
Yeah. So I think that it goes hand in hand with a little bit of mystery. If there's jealousy, it means that there's something that you can't put your finger on, you don't know what's going on, and it's making you feel insecure and a little paranoid maybe.
Yeah, well, paranoid I'd say is too much. I don't want people to start like believing that they're being cheated on. And I'm not talking about where you begin to really undermine the relationship because you're falsely accusing your spouse of an illicit relationship. I'm just talking about a husband and wife go together to a cocktail party, and I don't know, the husband flirts outrageously with some woman, and it's totally innocent, but he's flirting outrageously with her. Is that right or wrong? I'd say it's probably wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely wrong.
Okay.
It's really disrespectful.
So what if the husband said to his wife, "You're just insecure. I'm not going to do anything with her. It was like out in public. We were just having fun. What's wrong with that?"
Yeah, but I don't think that's. If she knows that there's nothing going on, it's also a matter of respect that you're humiliating her. Like if you're at a party and everyone sees him talking to another woman and flirting with her, that's embarrassing. It also makes her feel very small.
Oh, okay, so that's interesting. She is being embarrassed because he is behaving as if he's not someone's husband.
Yeah.
Okay. So then jealousy has its. So why do we demonize jealousy so much? Because it seems controlling.
No, because also jealousy, it's very hard to have little healthy doses of jealousy. I think it can snowball very easily. Into something paranoid and scary and controlling.
But Chana, that's saying, you know.
How do you keep jealousy to a healthy dose?
By having rules.
And how do you assuage someone's jealousy?
Firstly, I actually believe that husbands and wives can have access to each other's email accounts and phones. I don't think you should purposely go and check, and I don't think you should do behind their back. That itself shows there's no trust. I just mean in general. You're bone of one bone, flesh of one flesh, and you should share things. I don't believe in separate bank accounts. I know that it's different based on the circumstances of the marriage. If it's a second marriage and you bring in your own, property and you have kids from the first marriage, I understand there's different things. But in general, I think that husbands and wives, well, why should a husband be able to see his wife's email and vice versa? Not that he should purposely seek it out, but why we shouldn't have secrets from each other in marriage.
There should be that transparency. But you're kind of saying, and I see your point when you say that a little bit of jealousy can, if you see, maybe for men, I think it might work more, that if you see, someone checking out your wife or flirting with your wife, it might alert you to the fact, like, yeah, she's a woman and she's beautiful and she's desirable. But I also think that when it comes to jealousy, that it can seeing someone being insecure about the relationship can also be a turnoff.
Right. Oh, that's interesting, because confidence is a very sexy quality.
So if someone acts like, oh, you can do what you want, I don't care, then there's room for that attraction. But if you show that, like, it's you're getting into the territory of being like clingy and needy, and that's a turnoff.
Okay, that's an excellent point.
So how do you make sure you don't get into that?
Well,
like if you have suspicions that someone's cheating on you, do you get, like, let's say if you don't know if it's paranoia or you're just being, or it's validated, but do you go crazy and show
no,
do you act like?
No, paranoia is going to destroy a relationship, and there's not going to be any room for love in that relationship, because you're going to be falsely accusing and you're going to be very unhappy. You have to have a conversation. And if the conversation demands that you show a certain vulnerability and say, listen, I understand that I'm showing insecurity. I understand that I'm not feeling confident about myself. Is that because there's something wrong with me and something happening in my life that's making me feel insecure? Or is it that you're doing something? Now, you may not want to have that conversation because you don't want to show that kind of vulnerability, but it's a lot better than paranoia. Sometimes we have to show vulnerability in sides of ourselves that aren't that strong in a relationship.
Yeah. Agreed.
I remember a story that was brought to me that I had to counsel a couple where the wife was, she was this high-powered executive. The husband had a good job, but he lost his job. He was home. He was feeling really bad about himself. And he started to get very, very insecure and jealous of his wife. She saw her dressing to kill, going into the office, like, who are you dressing up for? And they started fighting. And you're right, the more insecurity he showed,
the less she was attracted to him.
Right, the smaller he became in her eyes, until she ended up having an affair. Oh, and it almost became a self-fulfilling prophecy, where he was convinced that he had nothing to offer his wife because he had such low self-esteem, because he had no job, et cetera, et cetera.
So in that situation, would it have been better had he not addressed the issue and just act like he didn't care?
No, I think that he had to address it, but he had to address it from a position of honesty and strength as opposed to a position of being accusatory and making his wife feel that he was too controlling. On the other hand, he was in a bad place.
Someone just asked, because I was going to say, what do you do about people's childhood friends? What if, Crystal said, what if you're jealous of your husband having a friend who is a girl? Is it valid to feel jealous then? It's a really good question. People always talk about this. Can there be platonic friendships between men and women?
Yeah, so
close ones.
Yeah, so my opinion is everything in life needs boundaries. If there's boundaries, there can be. Like if there are intimacies that you're sharing with someone else who's a childhood friend, member of the opposite sex, and that your spouse doesn't know about, no, that's inappropriate. I'll give you an example. I know many husbands, I don't know many, but I know husbands and wives who will share intimate details about their marriage with, let's say, an opposite sex friend or colleague at work, and that's inappropriate. Sometimes it's even inappropriate even with a same-sex friend. Just but to assume, see, whenever we speak about platonic friendships between a man and a woman, that we're assuming that there's no sex appeal. I'm not even sure that's a healthy thing for us to create a society where men and women have zero attraction to each other, where we pretend that the other person's femininity or masculinity is something we're totally neutered to. I'm not even sure that's a healthy thing, but
yeah, no, I want to get more into. I would like to get more into, can men and women be friends? But I think that's a good topic just to do on its own. Like, is there a possibility of men and women really being friends and having no sexual attraction, or being close to someone and there's no attraction?
I'm sure that, of course, that happens, but that doesn't mean that the attraction isn't going to suddenly develop just like that, because I think it develop in an instant.
At any moment?
Yeah, by and large. I mean, I think we all have our types physically, etc., but I still think that certain things, circumstances can happen and you suddenly feel very drawn to someone that you didn't feel drawn to at all before. That's the whole Harry met Sally thing. What that movie focused on is that eternal question: can men and women just be platonic friends? Now, that movie concluded, no, there's always going to end up being something romantic. But certainly when you're married, I think that you have to show a certain respect of acknowledging that if you're a man and you have a close friend who's a woman, that there has to be certain boundaries because you're a married man.
Right. Well, maybe that's what the basis of a real relationship is, as opposed to people, men and women, being just friends, is that you don't feel jealous of them or someone you're attracted to. That's where attraction comes in, and you can have a relationship. If two people don't get jealous of each other, then clearly there's no attraction.
But when you speak of people who have zero jealousy, Chana, in marriage, it's also not a healthy thing. A lot of men aren't jealous of their wives because they don't think anyone's interested in their wives.
So do you think jealousy can be a tool to heat up your marriage a little bit?
Well, when I wrote Kosher Adultery, I acknowledged certain things that comes from real research. Like, number one of the great factors that determined whether a couple would be together in 10 years, there was a study done, was how much jealousy they had. And if they had no jealousy towards each other, that was almost a strong indicator that they were going to end up divorcing because there was no possessiveness.
Yeah.
They also didn't believe that there was any sex appeal of their spouse to strangers. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation. But I think that what we've done with jealousy is that we've gone to the opposite extreme. That's right.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if God is prepared to admit that he's jealous in the Torah, is that a sign of divine weakness that God says, because what were the Jews doing that God said he was jealous? They were like worshiping stone and rock. Why would God be jealous of that? Those are false gods. Why are you jealous?
Full attention.
That's right. Well, I think in marriage we deserve to have that.
Well, speaking of Sota, something that's really beautiful, that's this week, right?
No, they study it. It's Parshat Emor this week, but they study Sota every day of the Omer because there's 49 days of the Omer and there's 49 pages in Sota.
No, I just wanted to say something really beautiful about Sota, the idea of a woman being accused of being unfaithful to her husband, that, especially with kosher sex, a lot of people would say, would come in and be like, there's nothing kosher about sex, and have all these misconceptions about sexuality in Judaism. But the idea of a couple being happy, a man and woman being happy when they're married, in the concoction that the high priest makes for the unfaithful wife, it has a little piece of what's it called?
God's name. Yes.
Yeah, a little piece of parchment with God's name.
Right. God's name is scraped in.
And it's poured in, and they scrape it out and whatever. So it just shows that God allows his name to be desecrated in
Right.
order that marriage should be, that married people should be happy and that they should be blessed.
Right. That's a beautiful thing. That God is, that's how far God will go to make sure that. Well, that's why the Kosher Sex Project is so important. We want people to be happily married, and it's very hard right now during the coronavirus pandemic, and people are home and not feeling that sexy. But a lot of people that we talk about insecurity, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and they're feeling, and they're not feeling productive. They're not feeling that they're contributing, and that diminishes your sex appeal and your feeling of self-confidence.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's why these talks are so important. Go to kosher.sex. I love what Chana is doing and trying to strengthen and relationships, and we'd love to hear your comments. We're going to do more Zooms when we figure it all out, and we're going to make sure.
Friends
God willing.
have to be friends with you as a couple.
Oh yeah, I love. We have some great comments here.
Yeah.
Ted, I love your comments, Ted. Okay, God bless you guys. See you. I might be back on later doing a Torah class for those who want to join us. God bless you.